Hi, we're joined today by Melina Quinn from the Northern Ireland Environment Agency to talk about the threat to bee species in Ireland and some of the actions that are taking place to deal with this problem. Melina, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me in.
How bad is this threat to the bees?
Well, across Ireland we have 98 different bee species. Most people will be familiar with the honeybee, but we have 97 wild bee species, 20 of which are bumblebees and the rest are solitary, and a third of the total number of species is under threat. What
are the reasons for this threat and for this decline in the bee population?
The main issue is the lack of places for bees to nest and to forage. Over the past 30-40 years, there's been a big change in our landscape. We used to have lots of areas of wildflower meadows, but that's been converted into silage. So we have a lot of intensive farming, so it means that native flowers aren't getting a chance to grow, which means then there's a lack of nesting areas because bees tend to nest in long grass or at the base of a hedge, and also a lack of flowers essentially for bees, because bees are entirely dependent on flowers during their entire life cycle. What are the wider implications of a decline in bees? Bees are valuable for us all on a daily basis. They pollinate a lot of our crops. In Northern Ireland, for example, the apple industry is worth about £7 million a year. So apples will be the main crop that are pollinated by bees. Oilseed rape, soft fruits like strawberries, blueberries, raspberries are all rely on insects to pollinate. And also in the polytunnels, tomatoes and cucumbers and marrows, that sort of thing. So if we want to have local Irish produce at an affordable price, we are heavily reliant on these pollinators. And in the wider countryside then, obviously bees are required to pollinate our native plants, trees and shrubs to produce fruit and seeds for birds, mammals, insects. So there's wider implications beyond just crop pollination.
We talk about our wider ecosystem then, I mean they do play a very key role then?
Definitely, yeah. And even within our gardens, if people are keen gardeners, they're relying on bees to pollinate their plants. You know, plants need to sort of grow, flower, set seed, and then create a next generation for the following year. So they're important for wildlife in a bigger sense.
In what ways are government responding to this issue?
We've released the All Ireland Pollinator Plan just last week. The plan has been a few years in the making. It was initiated by Trinity College by Dr. Jane Stout, who has been researching bees for 20 years, and also Dr. Ian Fitzpatrick, who works in the National Biodiversity Data Centre in Waterford. So they initiated the plan and brought together 15 different members on the steering group. So the plan's been in the making for over 2 years now. The Department of the Environment was involved, along with a few other bodies in the north, like Butterfly Conservation, the Ulster Museum. And at the minute we have 68 organisations have signed up to do their bit in the plan. The Department of Agriculture has signed up along with Transport NI and a host of pretty much all our local non-governmental organisations like Ulster Wildlife, RSPB, they've all signed up as well.
It's a wide spectrum of our society of sort of become part of this plan.
Yeah, we've been overwhelmed by the response and the level of engagement, because we had a draft circulated around and then one-to-one conversations with people, and we were very impressed by the response, and even the Ulster Farmers Union and the Ulster Beekeepers. So it goes beyond government and NGOs and kind of the usual suspects, so to speak. A lot of bodies are interested.
What do you think it is about this that's sort of inspiring, or it's getting a lot of people to kind of sit up and pay attention?
I don't know what it is. I think people have some sort of an affinity with bees. You know, if you're out and about on a sunny day in a nice meadow or along a hedgerow and you see bees buzzing and different, insects, for some reason that people sort of know to care for that. And I think too, people are beginning to realise that we do rely heavily on those insects for everyday life. You know, like at the minute our hedgerows are full of blackberries. They've all been a product of bees pollinating them. So thankfully people do see that there is a reason to try and improve the way we're living, because we're putting a lot of pressure on these pollinators. They're providing a free service and we're expecting a lot of them in terms of, we're reducing their food and we're reducing areas where they can nest. So I think there's a social responsibility there to try and address that.
Are there simple steps that people can take to sort of help out with this plan to sort of help our pollinators?
Yes, anyone that owns any garden, from a window box right through to a larger lawn, they can all do their bit. If they can try and grow plants that will provide a source for bees right through the season. Say bumblebees, for example, they emerge from hibernation in the spring, so they emerge very hungry, wanting to forage, to find a food source to bring back to a hive to then rear their young. So early spring, there's actually not a lot of flowers in the countryside, we're relying heavily on hedgerows like hazel, willow. Those kind of plants are very useful. But also something as common as the dandelion. For some reason the dandelion gets bad press as a weed, but it's actually a very important food source for bees, especially early in the season. So if people own a lawn, maybe just allow some weeds to grow. If they've got a big lawn, just allow a small corner to grow during the season, let the flowers bloom, and then cut it later in the season to just provide that source right through. And a lot of garden centres are actually now labelling plants as pollinator friendly, so try your best to choose plants that are suitable.
And so where can people go to find out more about the plan and about these schemes?
They can go onto the Biodiversity Ireland website, download the plan, which contains lots of information on what people can do and how they can get involved.
Well, Melina, thank you very much for coming in today and speaking with us about this issue.
Not at all, thank you.